Welcome to our Hong Kong Brief program. Today, we're diving into a cultural fiesta as Hong Kong gears up to host a top-tier international cultural summit. Imagine the glitz, the glamour, and, oh, the art. Representatives from the creme de la creme of the world's museums and cultural institutions will be flocking to our city for 3 days of panel discussions, networking, and some serious memorandum signing. It's not just a party, it's a chance for Hong Kong to strut its stuff on the global cultural catwalk. And with about 1,000 people invited, it's going to be quite the show, blending East and West in a spectacular cultural exchange. But wait, there's more. On the environmental front, it seems Hong Kong's green finance hub status might be in jeopardy. Greenpeace is waving the red flag, urging the city to put a cap on fossil fuel financing and introduce some tough anti-greenwashing laws. It's a call to action to keep Hong Kong's climate goals from turning into a mirage. Meanwhile, over in Indonesia, China's making moves to become a top investor in the new capital, Nusantara. It's part of a grand plan to build smart cities and strengthen ties with friendly nations. But, as with any grand plan, there are hurdles to overcome, including delays and social stability concerns. And finally, in a twist that could rival any soap opera, Hong Kong's Catholics are on edge over the potential for confessionals to be bugged under new national security legislation. It's a plot line that's got everyone talking, from the pews to the pulpit. Plus, we're taking a look at the rise of all-inclusive resorts, the fate of Hong Kong's iconic minibuses, and the city's potential role in hosting the FIFA Women's World Cup. It's a mixed bag of news, with something for everyone. So, grab your popcorn and stay tuned for all the details. Please continue to watch for more in-depth coverage. Will top-class summit put Hong Kong on global cultural map? South China Morning Post. Top museum and cultural institution representatives from around the world are set to gather in Hong Kong for the 3-day International Cultural Summit. Henry Tang Yin, chairman of the West Kowloon Cultural District Authority, WKCDA, which manages the Arts Hub, said the summit will give Hong Kong the opportunity to showcase its attractiveness and uniqueness. About 1,000 people have been invited to the summit, which will include panel discussions, networking opportunities, and the signing of memorandums of understanding with 20 institutions on areas of collaboration such as exhibitions, collection sharing, conservation, digitalization, and scientific research. The summit aims to facilitate exchanges between East and West in the arts and cultural dimensions. The West Kowloon Arts Hub, which is managed by the WKCDA, includes the M+ Museum, the Hong Kong Palace Museum, and the Shih Tzu Center. The Hong Kong Palace Museum has created a new showcase for Chinese treasures, many of which have never been displayed outside of mainland China before. The museum has hosted exhibitions that have included artifacts from the ancient Shu civilization, which date back at least 3,000 years ago, and exhibits associated with the Old Summer Palace in the Qing dynasty. The M+ Museum opened in 2021 and the Hong Kong Palace Museum in 2022. The Shih Tzu Center, a performance venue dedicated to Chinese opera, opened in 2019. The International Cultural Summit aims to strengthen Hong Kong's position as a cultural center and facilitate exchanges between the mainland and the world. The event demonstrates that collaborations in arts and culture have not faced too many obstacles despite geopolitical tensions. The summit will provide an opportunity for meaningful international exchange on cultural developments and trends, as well as the evolving landscape of technology's impact on the cultural sector. Loopholes endanger Hong Kong's status as green finance hub, Greenpeace. South China Morning Post. Hong Kong should set volume targets, restrict fossil fuel financing, and introduce anti-greenwashing legislation in order to achieve its climate goals, according to Greenpeace. Hong Kong is the top green finance hub in Asia, arranging over 1/3 of the continent's green and sustainable bond issuances. However, it needs to do more to prevent greenwashing, where companies make unsubstantiated claims about the environmental benefits of their products. Hong Kong lacks an overarching green finance strategy and has no plan to restrict fossil fuel financing, according to Greenpeace. Construction for Indonesia's new capital to lead China's growing city portfolio. South China Morning Post. China is set to become one of the top foreign investors in Nusantara, the planned new capital of Indonesia. The Chinese government hopes that the investment will become the standout showpiece in a growing body of work building smart cities and other landmark urban zones in other countries. Analysts believe that these projects will help China connect with friendly nations to facilitate trade and give Chinese construction firms a chance to prove themselves abroad. Beijing-based state-owned builder CITIC Construction has already expressed interest in developing 60 residential towers in Nusantara. The Chinese government's Belt and Road Initiative has already spawned China-funded infrastructure projects in scores of countries, including ports, highways, and power plants. Construction of smart cities advances China's goal of increasing connectivity in countries near its borders, such as in Southeast Asia. However, Chinese projects in Nusantara face the risk of delays, overruns, financing issues, and social stability concerns. Chinese contractors experienced delays and overruns on the Java high-speed railway, and some Indonesian citizens and officials resent China over past disputes over mining projects. Article 23. After the victory lap, what's next for Hong Kong? SCMP opinion. China's national security legislation has ended the rebellion in Hong Kong, but the city has yet to fulfill its constitutional, legal, and moral duty to safeguard national security, writes Regina Ip Lau Suk Yi in the South China Morning Post. The current legislation is ineffective and outdated, so Hong Kong needs to update existing laws and introduce new offenses in line with President Xi Jinping's holistic view of national security, she adds. Market forces will decide Hong Kong minibus's fate. SCMP opinion. Hong Kong's iconic minibuses, which have been a staple of the city's transport system for over 50 years, are facing financial challenges that may lead to their extinction. The COVID-19 pandemic, expansion of bus and MTR networks, changes in tunnel tolls, and higher interest rates have all contributed to a decline in passenger numbers and revenues. Operators are facing financial difficulties, and some have abandoned their vehicles. The future of minibuses will ultimately be determined by market forces, but the rise of self-driving vehicles as a last-mile transport solution may further pressure their viability. Who needs Messi when you can have the Women's World Cup? SCMP opinion. Hong Kong has been suggested as a co-host for the FIFA Women's World Cup in 2031. The proposal is for matches to be staged in the Greater Bay Area, which includes Hong Kong, Macau, and 9 cities in Guangdong. The area is currently preparing to host the national games next year and has been improving intergovernmental communication and upgrading facilities. The Women's World Cup has been successful in raising awareness of gender equality issues, and hosting the tournament would provide a boost to women's football in Hong Kong. Hong Kong homebuyers flock to Wheelock Seasons Place in Seong Kwan O. South China Morning Post. Hong Kong homebuyers are flocking to flats in Seong Kwan O, taking advantage of the cheapest prices seen in the area in 5 years. Wheelock Properties sold more than 300 units of the first batch of 368 units on offer at Seasons Place by 5 p.m. on April 1. The number of units offered in the first round was the largest seen this year. Even before the sale, the project had attracted more than 10,000 prospective buyers. The price after discounts has been set between 4.47 million Hong Kong dollars and 10.8 million Hong Kong dollars, $570,000 and $1.38 million. Hong Kong clergy fear Beijing could bug Catholic confessionals. Telegraph. Catholics in Hong Kong are concerned that new national security legislation could allow Beijing to bug confessionals, imprison priests, or use spies to entrap clergy. The legislation, known as Article 23, introduces vaguely defined crimes including treason, sabotage, sedition, espionage, and external interference. It came into force on July 3, adding to the already restrictive 2020 national security law. Although the church has so far avoided the sweeping detention seen among politicians, activists, and journalists, the Catholic community fears that the sacred seal of confession could be threatened. The doctrine prohibits priests from sharing anything confessed to them, even in serious cases. The new law states that failing to report knowledge of treason or planned treason can result in a prison sentence of up to 14 years. Many priests are now exercising self-censorship to avoid potential issues. The rise of the all-inclusive resort. Foreign policy. All-inclusive resort hotels have become a booming global business, attracting customers from across Asia as well as the traditional US and European families. The history of the modern resort can be traced back to seaside living, notably in Britain and Germany in the 18th century. The modern all-inclusive concept was founded in the 1930s with Butlins holiday camps in Britain, followed by Club Med in the 1950s. The business model of all-inclusive resorts eliminates the hold-up problem by promising a fixed price, which encourages more people to sign up. The upfront payment creates goodwill and enables the resorts to cross-subsidize their services, resulting in higher profit margins. However, critics argue that the model can have negative cultural, political, and economic consequences. Colonial stereotypes and the enclosure of the resorts in a bubble can be seen as culturally and politically problematic. Economically, a significant proportion of the revenue generated by the resorts flows back out again rather than staying in the local community. Nevertheless, the all-inclusive concept is no longer inherently Western, but a hugely popular global model of tourism, with China being a major driver of the industry. Hong Kong's new security law comes into force amid fears it will further erode civil liberties. CBC. A new national security law, known as Article 23, has come into force in Hong Kong, drawing criticism from the international community. The law is seen as eroding freedoms in the city and damaging its reputation as an international financial hub. The US, Australia, and Britain have expressed concerns about the law and have updated their travel advisories for Hong Kong. Pro-democracy politicians and activists have been jailed or gone into exile in recent years, and liberal media outlets and civil society groups have been shut down. Protests against the law are planned in several countries. Understanding how Germany and Europe ended the Cold War. Deutsche Welle. A new exhibition titled Peaceful Revolution and German Unity has been created by the Federal Foundation for the Study of the Communist Dictatorship in East Germany. The exhibition documents the fight for freedom and democracy in 1989 by millions of people in former East Germany, GDR, Poland, Hungary, and other Eastern European countries. It targets a young audience and includes photos, short texts, and QR codes linking to additional videos. The exhibition aims to facilitate discussion in politics and history courses and has received a positive response from educators and students. Charting the global economy, Switzerland surprises with rate cut. Bloomberg. The Swiss National Bank surprised with an interest rate cut, while central bankers in Japan ended aggressive monetary stimulus. The Federal Reserve held U.S. borrowing costs steady, and the Bank of England moved closer to cutting rates. Euro area labor cost increases slowed, Japan increased interest rates for the first time since 2007, and Hong Kong fast-tracked domestic security legislation. The Biden administration is considering blacklisting Chinese semiconductor firms, and the latest Fed interest rate cycle triggered a decline in household net interest income. Various other countries also made decisions on interest rates. Finland was ranked the world's happiest country, while Ghana's economy expanded at its fastest pace in a year. In Israel, a ban on Palestinian workers has halted building sites and affected the construction industry. Indonesia furniture makers turn to new markets in face of EU deforestation rule. Nikkei Asia. Indonesia is seeking new markets for its furniture and wooden goods due to the European Union's deforestation regulation, EUDR, which will require importers of commodities such as palm oil, coffee, and cocoa to prove their products do not come from deforested land. Indonesia's furniture and handicraft industries, which are currently facing challenges due to weakening exports, are now targeting emerging markets such as India and African countries, as well as ASEAN member states. The country's Furniture and Handicraft Industry Association has also called on industries to expand new markets to fill the void left by the EU's regulation. China's policy meeting on property raises hope of aid for sector. Bloomberg. China's Premier Li Qiang has called for further optimization of property policies to stimulate demand, indicating that more support may be on the way for the struggling sector. The State Council meeting chaired by Li called for the systematic planning of supportive policies to drive potential home buying demand and promote the healthy development of the housing market. China's property sector has shown little sign of a turnaround, with home sales in a third year of decline and cash flow troubles emerging among more developers. Chinese authorities have been stepping up support for the housing market by urging banks to provide financing for developers and allowing local governments to ease rules for home buyers. Thank you for tuning in. The content above showcases the latest briefing reports and analytical synopses, thoughtfully curated by the 6Do team. These insights stem from a wide array of reputable media outlets, think tanks, government sources, and specialized experts worldwide. We encourage you to explore these sources for a comprehensive perspective. Keep in mind that while the content may not always align with the official standpoint of 6Do Brief, it's not meant to be taken as absolute directives for decision-making. Comprising seasoned media professionals, learned scholars, and accomplished scientists, the 6Do team embodies a trailblazing, fully independent media entity. To customize 6Do Brief to meet your professional needs, you have the option to subscribe to a diverse array of briefings on our website, 6dobrief.com. Regardless of your location, you can conveniently receive 6Do Brief via email.